Hello and welcome to People in Perspective. I'm here with Carlene O'Brien and I'm Jake O'Brien. How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
All right, I'm gonna ask you some questions about
Sure.
your life and so can you talk about your early childhood and your highlights then?
Well, highlight is when I was born
All right.
in 1938, April 16th. And
Do you remember any stories or anything? What was your...
I remember, because it was right before we entered World War II, I remember when I was about 3 or 4 that we had to put blackouts. We had to drape our windows in black. So the purpose was so that they couldn't bomb the big cities. And we lived in Oak Park right outside Chicago.
Yeah, and so what were your favorite things to do as a kid? Any sports or anything
Well,
like that?
you know what? No, not in very early. We had rationing. We had ration cards, and then we had where we would save. The children could bring like a nickel a week, and it would be put in our passbook. That was part of the war effort. Part of the war effort also was saving all your recycling.
All right.
Tin cans and everything.
And so for school, how do you think the school is different from now and then? What would you do in school?
Well, for one thing, we didn't have preschool then. So when we went in kindergarten, that's where we learned. We didn't know usually how to read or write, and that's where we learned everything. Went to a kindergarten in Oak Park, Washington Irving School.
And how long was elementary school? So is it K through 5?
K through 8.
K through 8.
Yes.
And then for high school, how was high school then?
Well, I went to Oak Park River Forest High School, and that was 4 years. I don't recall that I was in any sports really.
All right.
On that it wasn't a big thing then.
So did you what kind of activities did you do at OPRF High School?
Well, home economics was. Don't forget, I went in the 1950s, so it was a whole different demographic. Women did home economics, guys did industrial arts.
All right.
So never the twain shall meet in my day, kind of. So that's, and when I was in 8th grade, 7th and 8th grade, the boys went to industrial arts, the girls went to home economics for 2 years, 7th and 8th grade.
And this is you when how old?
5.
5 years old.
5 years old.
So this is 5 years
Yes.
old. So you were in kindergarten.
Correct.
First year of kindergarten. This
Right.
photo. And so
That's when we took pictures, like real pictures, not phone pictures.
yeah, and then going back all the way to K through 8.
Yes.
Was it annoying having to go to school, the same school for 8 years?
No, it was very comforting. Actually, our kindergarten was unique in that we had a goldfish pond at Washington Irving School. And then we had a stage, and there were all toys up there. You walk up steps just like these, and you could play with doll houses. The guys could play with whatever guys played with at that time.
And how old were you when you got your first job? And what was it?
Babysitting.
Babysitting.
At about 12 years old. Neighborhood children. And then 16 when I got a job down in the city typing.
Typing for what? What'd you type for?
You know what? That's a good question. I can't quite I think he was an insurance broker, and I did typed up policies for him.
Do you know where in the city it was?
Not when I was 16, but when I was 19, I worked at in the LaSalle National Bank building for Blythe and Company, which was a financial institution. That was the financial district of Chicago at that time. And I worked in the security cage, typing up stocks that were bought and stocks that were sold that particular day.
And then how old were you in this photo right here?
Think about 15 or 16
15?
when I met your grandpa.
So this was how old were you or when you were?
14, 15.
Yeah. And then, so basically, this was when you were going to the typing. So how would you get there? How would you transport yourself there?
We took the elevated. It was my next door neighbor. I worked for my next door neighbor.
Oh, okay.
So he had an office in the city with a secretary, and then I helped the secretary in typing her things.
Yeah.
So took the elevated.
Yeah, and then do you remember any news and crazy stuff happening when you were like in that age gap?
Yes, I do. There was the fire, the Our Lady of Angels fire in 1959, I
Yeah.
want to say,
All right.
which changed the whole code of fire, of schools and fire codes. I don't know if any of you know about that.
I don't.
It was an
personally.
elementary Catholic school that I believe 92 or 100 some people died,
Oh, wow.
children, and because it was not a good fire code
Yeah.
that they had, and so that changed all the fire code changed at that point. That was
So,
in
like,
1959.
Yeah. All right. And then also like you driving, like when did you get your license at
Well,
16?
I got my license when my husband registered for the draft because the Vietnam War was coming, and we knew it because it was Cambodia, Laos, and that.
Yeah.
And so he registered for the draft, and he had to serve 6-month active duty and then 7 years active reserve.
Yeah.
And I learned to drive then. We just started driving, being able to drive in school.
So-
It wasn't a thing at my time.
So when did you get married?
1959.
And then, so can you explain this picture right here? Like,
Yep,
where
that's
was
in
it?
front. That's in front of my house, our house, and look at the cars. Kind of neat, isn't
Yeah,
it?
old fashioned.
Yeah.
So,
Well, so am I, but at that point
Yeah.
I wasn't. Also, Kennedy was running for president
oh,
in 1960. What did he start running? 1960? 1960, and that was the first election I voted in because you had to be 21 then
oh wow.
to vote in your election.
So rules have changed a lot since then,
It
obviously.
has, and the financial district was largely, I would say, Republican, so Kennedy wasn't looked on very favorably. And there was only one other gentleman and I who we could do this in work then, a Democratic button that said, vote for Kennedy.
And can you just like briefly explain like parenting and one of the stories you had parenting, like my dad or any of my aunts or anything like that? Like broken bones or anything like that.
Oh, your dad had a lot of broken bones. He was born in 68, and he mostly broke his bones when he was in sports here at RB.
Yeah.
He went 1 year to Fenwick and then the 3 last years to RB, and he broke it playing basketball, playing football. I don't know how else, yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. Thank you for coming.
Oh,
This has
you're
been
very
People-
welcome.
This
It was
has been
fun.
Yeah, this has been People in Perspective. Thank you for watching.